Hello there, this is L24 World News streaming from capital Algiers, and coming up next in our news program. Thousands of followers of an influential Shiite cleric breached Iraq's parliament on Saturday, the second time in a week, to protest the government formation efforts led by Iran-backed groups. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Friday held talks over various issues. Blinken discussed proposal with Lavrov to free detained Americans and situation in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky visited the port of Kramatorsk on Friday as grain vessels prepared to set sail from the Black Sea a week after a deal brokered by the UN and Turkey. In USA, Kentucky flood scale at least 19 as Governor Walz's tool will be a lot higher. Good afternoon, I'm your host Abdurrahim Kashur, and those were today's top stories. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Friday held talks for the first time since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary said he would urge Russia to honor the landmark deal reached last week in Turkey to allow the release of millions of tons of Ukrainian grain.
Perfect. Take the phone. I'll also raise the matter of the tentative deal on grain exports that Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, and the United Nations reached last week. We hope this deal will swiftly lead to Ukrainian grain being shipped again through the Black Sea, and that Russia will follow through on its pledge to allow those ships to pass.
In the same context, the U.S. top diplomat urged the Kremlin to accept the substantial proposal that Washington has put forward to secure the release of 2 Americans detained in Russia.
We put a substantial proposal on the table weeks ago to facilitate their release. Our governments have communicated repeatedly and directly on that proposal.
17 ships ready to move goods from ports in Odessa. A total of 508 tons of grain will be exported for the first time since the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict after last week Turkey and United Nations breakthrough agreement. Hussein Burkan tackled the story in this report.
President Volodymyr Zelensky visited one of Ukraine's main Black Sea ports in Odessa region on Friday, a week after a deal was struck with Russia, Turkey, and the United Nations to create safe corridors for ships to export grains that have been trapped in the country since the start of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine.
The first vessel, the first ship, is being loaded since the beginning of the war. This is a Turkish ship, and I am standing in its background. This indicates that the port has started working. The most important thing for us is that the port and people work. You see that many people, I will say frankly, that everyone is happy, that they went to work and have a job, that the process has started.
As the Battle of Donbass continue, Russia and Ukraine accused each other Friday of shelling a prison in the separatist region of eastern Ukraine, an attack that reportedly killed dozens of Ukrainian military prisoners who were captured after the fall of the southern port city in May. Kyiv called for the United Nations and the Red Cross to be allowed to investigate the deaths of the Ukrainian prisoners of war and called for Russia to be recognized as a state sponsor of terrorism.
I would add for myself that there should be a clear legal recognition of Russia as state sponsoring terrorism. I am especially turning to the United States of America. A decision is needed. It is needed now. Russia has proven by numerous terrorist acts that it is the largest source of terrorism in today's world. This is a fact.
The attack was condemned by European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell on Friday, calling for a stop for the atrocities committed by the Russian armed forces. as the Moscow-installed military administration ruling confirmed their plans of holding a referendum on joining Russia and Ukraine's Kherson region, the UK Ministry of Defense, in its daily intelligence report, claimed that the referendum would be conducted by autumn 2022. It's worth recalling that Kherson, an important port on the Black Sea, has been fully under Russian control since early March, just weeks after Moscow launched its special military operation.
The Russian gas giant Gazprom said on Saturday that it has stopped deliveries to Latvia, saying that the Baltic nation has violated the terms of gas extraction. Latvia refused to comply with Moscow's ruble payment demanded, which insists that European countries switch to paying for gas in rubles. In the same context, Gazprom Deputy CEO Vitaly Merkov said that Siemens failed to return the Nord Stream gas turbine to Russia on time after mandatory repair.
The time between overhauls for Siemens engines is 25,000 hours. After that, a mandatory overhaul in the factory is required. In December last year, Siemens engine number 073 was delivered to a factory in Canada for repair. We expected to get it back in May. This engine has not returned to Russia so far, due to anti-Russian sanctions and without the consent of Gazprom. It was sent from Canada not to Russia, but to Germany.
Speaking on local radio, Viktor Orban, Hungary's prime minister, announced Friday that he will sign a new deal with Russia in the coming month, which will supply the country with nearly 1 billion cubic meters of gas. This new deal comes on the top of 15 years deal Budapest signed with Russia's state-owned energy giant Gazprom last year to supply around 4.5 billion cubic meters of gas per year. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu met with his German counterpart Annalena Baerbock in Istanbul Friday. During the meeting, regional issues, including the latest development in Ukraine, were high on the agenda, along with bilateral relations, according to a statement released by the Turkish Foreign Ministry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Turkish Foreign Minister urged Germany to be an honest broker and not to always side with Athens in dispute between Turkey and Greece.
We tell third parties to be nuanced. To be fair, Greece says that no matter how wrong they are, you have to be on their side. And unfortunately, they managed to make that happen. That's what the European Union does. Germany used to have a nuanced and trustworthy attitude. We ask Germany to keep up with this attitude.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said on Friday that if United States challenges China's red line, it will be met with resolute countermeasures. Beijing labeled the return of U.S. warships in the South China Sea a threat to peace and stability in the region. This comes while the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, appears to be on the verge of a trip to Taiwan, a visit opposed by China.
Recently, China has repeatedly expressed to the United States its solemn position that it firmly opposes Mrs. Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. In addition to the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, the Ministry of Defense and the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council also issued statements.
Campaigners are calling on United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to choose a new human rights chief willing to take a strong stance against powerful government human rights. Advocates accuse outgoing Commissioner Michelle Bachelet of not being outspoken enough about abuses in some countries, including China. Thousands of supporters of prominent Iraqi Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr protested on Saturday, 3 days after a storm in parliament. Sadr demonstrators have breached several barriers in the fort-filled green zone. Security personnel have fired tear gas and water cannon in an attempt to disperse demonstrators. The southern protesters are opposed to the nomination of Mohammed Shia Sudani for the position of Prime Minister. Unless Sudani's nomination is withdrawn, further demonstrations remain almost certain over the coming days. Palestinian officials said that Zionist soldiers shot a dead 16-year-old Palestinian during a confrontation near a Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank. Witnesses said that the incident also involved face-offs in open field between settlers and Palestinians. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the teenager's killing as an execution. A second Palestinian was shot and wounded in the incident, health officials and witnesses said. After months-long pause due to legal procedures, a federal court in the U.S. state of Virginia had issued an order to continue the appeal of a lawsuit in the United States, accusing Khalifa Haftar of committing war crimes, torture, and killing. The Virginia court has notified retired Major General Haftar that he must appear in the hearings, which start on the 25th of this month, to investigate the cases brought against him, accusing him of committing murder. Tunisia's foreign ministry summoned the U.S. charge d'affaires on Friday after Secretary of State Antony Blinken raised concerns about the country's democracy. The ministry said that in a statement that it had called Natasha Francesca, currently the top official at the U.S. Embassy, to the headquarters of the recent remarks by Blinken and American ambassador nominee Joe Hood. The ministry said Tunisia's Foreign Minister Othman Journedi told Fanashi that statement represented an unacceptable interference in the national internal affairs. On Saturday, Algeria officially inaugurated the Grand Iron Mine, Bajar Jabilat, in the far southwestern province of Tindouf for the first time since its discovery in 1952. According to the statement of the Algerian Ministry of Energy, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arkab, will open the mine through which Algeria seeks to ensure and secure the supply of raw materials to national minerals and steel plants and enhance non-hydrocarbon revenues. Gar Jabilat deposit extends over 131 square kilometers and its exploited reserves are estimated at 2 billion tons of ore, with 58.57% of iron, placing Algeria in the forefront of Africa iron and steel industry. After days of rain this week, devastating flash floods in eastern Kentucky claimed the lives of 16 individuals. Children account for 6 of those deaths. This disaster came 2 weeks after rain-triggered flash floods inundated the riverfront Appalachian community of Whitewood in the southwestern Virginia near the Kentucky border.
A massive number of homes, businesses and roadways were covered by water Thursday morning after flooding unleashed by torrential rainfall hit parts of Kentucky. 16 people, including 6 children, died in eastern Kentucky, and authorities warned that more fatalities are expected.
We have now lost at least 15 Kentuckians, though that number is going to grow. It'll probably more than double. We know some of the lost will include children. We may have even lost entire families.
Kentucky's governor signed a state of emergency allowing the National Guard to utilize trucks and helicopters to help rescue Kentuckians trapped by high water. The governor described the disaster as one of the worst.
I've seen a lot. I've certainly done 3+ flights and or tours over flooded areas. This is by far the worst.
According to the National Weather Service, heavy rains are expected to continue in central and eastern Kentucky. The floods mark the second major national disaster to strike Kentucky in 7 months, following a swarm of tornadoes that claimed nearly 80 lives last December. And as the world warms, scientists expect more frequent and intense downpours, However, no one has done the specific studies needed to attribute these storms to climate change yet.
At least 53 people killed in Iran on Friday after landslides and floods triggered by heavy rains. Mahdi Valipur, head of emergency operations at the Red Crescent Society, said that 16 people were still missing after 2 days of floods that have affected 400 towns and villages in 18 of Iran's 31 provinces. Many highways were also closed. According to global aid organization World Vision, hunger and drought in Somalia are destroying livelihoods and have forced more than 800,000 people to flee their homes, with more than 7 million facing severe food insecurity. According to forecasts, the issue is expected to get worse over the next several months, with the record-breaking fifth unsuccessful rainy season probable across the nation. An estimated of 1.5 million Somali children under the age of 5 are in danger of acute by the end of the year due to the country's worst drought in 40 years. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo will auction the 27 oil and gas blocks in the Congo Central Patalina in the Congo Basin Forest. However, the move had angered environmentalists who says that the oil drilling will pose significant risk to the ecosystem. Nabil Khassini.
The authorities of the Democratic Republic of Congo announced the sale to investors of 27 oil and 3 gas blocks, despite the campaigns of local and international NGOs which warn of environmental impact of the exploitation.
It is with great joy that I have the honor to present to you 7 notices of expression of interest covering 27 oil and 3 gas blocks of Lake Kivu, drawn up to invite investors from the national and international oil industry to submit to calls for tenders with the ultimate objective of awarding hydrocarbon rights.
The renowned peatland tropical forest in the Congo Basin is the largest in the world and plays a crucial role in Africa's climate system. But the sale aroused an outcry of environmentalists and climate activists who say that oil drilling will pose significant risk to a continent already inundated by harsh climate effects. However, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo assured that modern technology can help to avoid any harm to nature.
I reassure our partners here of our determination to carry out mining and exploration work using the most modern technological means that protect the environment, fauna and flora, and preserve ecosystems as well as ecological balances.
The Congo Basin covers 530 million hectares in Central Africa and represents 70% of the continent's forest land. It hosts over 1,000 bird species and more primates than any other place in the world. Not only animals are at risk, people could also be affected. Local residents can be displaced or evicted. Nevertheless, the Congolese authorities insist that the controversial project is justified by economic imperatives.
Brazil's environmental authority granted an initial permit that will allow a major highway to be paved through the center of the Amazon rainforest, in a move that threatens to increase deforestation. Right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro on the campaign trail had pledged to repave the road that would connect the largest Amazon city of Manaus year-round to the rest of Brazil. The U.S. House of Representatives on Friday passed legislation banning assault-style rifles that have been used in mass shooting, sending it to the Senate where it faces likely defeat. Democrats have been trying for years to renew a federal ban on the weapon, which was first imposed in 1994 and expired in 2004.
Back, gentleman from Ohio reserves, gentleman from...
Each year, more children die from gun violence than any other cause. Cancer, auto accidents, any other cause. Our nation has watched in unspeakable horror as assault weapons have been used in massacre after massacre in communities across the country. And disturbingly, so many of these mass shootings have targeted our precious children in their schools, at the movies, at the malls, and throughout our communities. That is why I rise today in strong support in reinstating the assault weapons ban, a long overdue step to get deadly weapons off our streets.
Survivors of 9/11 and their family members on Friday blasted former President Donald Trump and pro-golfers for participating in the Saudi-backed live golf events at the Trump National Golf Club this week.
Thanks, Bob.
A group of 9/11 survivors and family members of the fallen held a protest outside a golf tournament sponsored by Saudi Arabia and to be held at a club owned by former U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump could be seen attending a party with the stars of Live Golf this week ahead of the tournament, which will be played at his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey. Critics say the breakaway series amounts to blatant sports washing by a nation trying to improve its reputation in light of its history of human rights abuses and suspected affiliation with the attacks of September 11th.
Cannot believe that we have to be here 21 years later, speaking out against a government that is trying to sports wash or whitewash their atrocities all over the world. Speaking out against a former president who is making millions and millions of dollars, speaking out and educating America. We can't believe that we even have to be here today.
Organized by the 9/11 Justice Group, survivors of the attacks and their family members held a briefing outside the Trump course.
The president looked me in the eyes and said, yes, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to help the families. The next day, his administration then declared those same documents, these, state secrets, thus blocking the families from seeing what we now know as the facts regarding 12 senior Saudi government officials. I only spoke about 3 today. Further, on September 17th, 2016, while campaigning, the president, Mr. Trump, acknowledged the Saudi role in the attacks. He said, who blew up the World Trade Center? Wasn't the Iraqis, it was Saudi Arabia.
15 of the 19 hijackers of jet planes on September 11, 2001 were Saudi nationals. Family members of victims have sought a prop of their suspicions that Saudi Arabia was linked to the hijackers. For the protesters, the attacks are very much a fresh wound.
I don't believe that the murder of 3,000 Americans and the ever-increasing death toll of thousands of injured and ill Americans should ever be considered old news.
In September 2021, the Saudi government welcomed the release of classified documents related to an FBI probe, and the country's U.S. embassy said that any allegation that Saudi Arabia is complicit in the September 11 attacks is categorically false.
And with this, we reach the end of our news. Now let's have a reminder of our main top stories. Thousands of followers of an influential Shiite cleric breached Iraq's parliament on Saturday, the second time in a week, to protest the government's formation efforts led by Iran-backed groups. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Friday held talks over various issues. Blinken discussed proposal with Lavrov to free detained Americans and situation in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the port of Kremenchuk on Friday as grain vessels prepared to set sail from the Black Sea, a week after a deal brokered by UN and Turkey. In U.S. Kentucky floods kill at least 19 as governor warns toll will be a lot higher. Thank you so much for keeping it here on L24 News. For more updates, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram. Bye for now.